What do you have as far as sports? Because people are clamoring for sports.
This whole All-Star game. And, we talk about how terrible, in the NFL level, it's terrible, right? They've got all these different things that they're trying to do because it got so bad. It was awful. The one thing about the Major League Baseball All-Star game that made it pretty intriguing, I think, is there's probably less chance of injury there. I would say that's probably true. And I think you got to be careful with some of these things. But the home run derby, right? I mean, that's something we've all, I think, grown up with. We think that's pretty daggone cool. Forget the game for just a second. I think the derby itself kind of steals the show. And I think it's pretty exciting. And here's some of the guys that are going to be doing it. Now, it's not Aaron Judge, and that's too bad. I mean, you want to have the biggest and the baddest, and they kind of do. But they got Pete Alonso, Gunnar Henderson, and Alec Boehm from Philly. Those are some good names. Those are guys that are hitting the ball this year and doing an absolutely magnificent job. And I think that's going to be fun. It always is. I mean, there's somebody they pick out that throws them the ball and everything. But nonetheless, just to watch these guys that we know can crush the ball, just watching them really crush the ball, I think it's still pretty fun and pretty exciting. What's that? Ohtani? The problem for Ohtani is, you just worry about injury, right? But just because of what happened with his elbow, I know he's been playing this year. He's not pitching, but he's still amazing to watch. And it'd be great to see some of these guys. By the way, people who don't know this about Ohtani, he's 6'4" and about 225 pounds, John. So I know he's not as big as Aaron Judge, who's 6'7", but he's a big son of a gun who that's part of what helps him with his swing and getting that ball out of there pretty fast. But you pointed out to me this, and I think this is interesting. And I didn't realize Major League Baseball's kind of got into the category of Taylor Swift, but they are. So they aren't Swifties. I guess they're ballies or whatever. But $500, is that what you told me, John? The average
ticket price, $571 to the All-Star game, folks. The cheapest ticket is just under $300. And the high ticket, which I imagine includes, all you can eat hot dogs and open bar. And if any of you out there can do damage worth of $6,500, because that's what those seats are going for, if you want to be on TV, I guess, because, the people right in the first base, third base, all the way to home plate, that kind of on TV as the camera pans back and forth. And just have a pig out fest and maybe a drunken fest. Great. And if any of you can drink $6,500 worth of booze,
you ain't feeling good the next day.
But somebody will buy it, Pete. But that did help boost the prices, but there are very few of those seats. So it's really the cheapest seats, the outfield cheap seats are $271, Pete. And the average, again, $580 or something like that. So this is right up there with Taylor Swift kind of prices. Kind of crazy, but I guess they haven't been in town for a while, and people like seeing all those stars.
Yeah, they want to see them. They want to see Aaron Judge. They want to see Mike Trout. They want to see Ohtani, to your point. I mean, that's who they want to see. They're not able to see them, but these other guys are either stars or budding stars or whatever you want to call them. I mean, this is the next level of guys. Pete Alonso, by the way, I think he's already won it twice, and I think he's going for his third potentially or something like that, John. I mean, that guy, he's pretty amazing. All right, let's jump to the NFL training camps. I'm excited about it because this is coming up quick. I mean, here we are. It's July 8th, and Baltimore is the first to open up, but they're July 13th. That's Saturday. So we've really got football is in the air. Some sad news with the Vikings this past weekend, unfortunately, on Saturday for the people who didn't know it, but their fourth-round draft pick, a cornerback from Oregon, was killed in a car crash along with two other guys that he played college ball with who also were in the NFL and high school ball with, and who also NFL guy. Really sad. I mean, sad news. But in any case, we have camps are opening, and that part is exciting. And I think it's really exciting. You got Buffalo, Chicago, you got Kansas City, the Chargers, and Miami all kick off on July 16th. And then we start getting into it a little bit, John. Now, I know the first games are never all that exciting. Most of the preseason's not very exciting. But I will tell you this, August 1st is the Hall of Fame game. And that should be pretty fun for you because it's the Chicago Bears going up against the Houston Texans. I don't know who's going to play. I doubt Caleb Williams is put onto the field, but it could have. I don't know. I mean, that's the difficulty of when do you put your star player or players into the game, especially quarterbacks? Do you play them early in the preseason? If you do, you better have some of those starting offensive linemen in front of them would be my idea. But it's pretty interesting, John. Here's another one that's kind of fun. So Jonathan Owens, you probably don't know that name. Maybe you do. He's a safety for the Bears. He came from Green Bay. And before that, he played 4 seasons, ironically, with Houston, the Texans, the same team they're going to be playing. He also happens to be married to Simone Biles. So they gave him the ability to go over to Paris, watch his wife compete in the Olympics. And by the way, for the people who don't know this, and I learned this over the last week because we had the tryouts for the Olympics right here in Minnesota. She is the GOAT. She is Michael Jordan of her sport. There's not one person who out there that I've heard say anybody but her name as the very best. So I think it's pretty cool that they're allowing Jonathan Owens to go out there and watch that and then come back and get into training camp. But it should be pretty exciting, John. I know that you get excited about it too. I mean, it's the heat. It's everything that goes into training camps. But the fact that they're here and now all of a sudden you're going to get all those networks that are actually there watching practices and filming and doing the commentary and all that, it's got to be pretty exciting. It gets the heart kind of going a little bit.
Yeah, it's that time of year, Pete.
Yeah.
It seems so damned early, though, July 13th, especially like you said, the Hall of Fame game or whatever on August 1st. I don't know why they're starting this one up so early because, when you were going to training camp, Pete, I went to rookie training camp and, I think that was right around July 8th or so.
Yeah.
And then a week later, the veterans showed up back then. I think, I don't know, do they still do that, Pete?
They still do. Well, not every team is different. Some of them bring everybody in at once. Some of them are bringing the rookies in, and then they're going to bring the vets. Some are bringing the rookies and new players, and then the vets. So they're all doing something a little bit different. But, yeah, I understand what you're saying, and this is about that time. I remember one of the last years with the Buccaneers, I think we started just after July 4th. I think it was the 6th or 7th, 8th, somewhere in there.
It's too early. It's too early to be playing a game is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Should they come into camp and start practicing their skills, which are already at, an incredible level? Yeah, just take off a little of the rust and so forth, kind of get over the aches and pains of wind sprints and all that kind of stuff. But they won't be doing much hitting. And in fact, by their contracts, folks, they cannot do hardly any hitting. And more or less, that's why the teams like Detroit look forward to the games, because since they can't hit in practice much, they're going to hit in that game. And, the coaches are going to make sure they hit in that game. So to your point, Pete, I do think Caleb will play by August 1st. I just don't think if there's another game next week, for instance, the 20th or 21st, I don't know if any of the first rounders are going to be playing in that game. But,
I think one of the things that I think is the most important thing that's happening in the NFL that is something good is the scrimmages between each other, because at least then you get some kind of hitting. You're hitting somebody else, and it's just the competition level is risen, right, for that particular couple of practices. Usually it's 2 or 3 days. They get together with somebody they're going to play in the preseason, and it's 2 or 3 days before the preseason game. They do all the hitting, and then they got to figure out who's going to play in the preseason game, which as a fan, you show up, it's you never know who's going to be there. You have no idea, but there's probably a good chance that you're going to see at least 20 of the players in suits on the side and not playing at all. So that's part of what preseason football has become.
Yeah. And folks, not to close on a sad note, but I am going to, as Pete mentioned, that player, 4th round pick, that played all over, by the way, played in a junior college, Pete, as I did, played at, I think, Bama, transferred up to Oregon. The kid's a 4th round pick. And if you didn't read the article, folks, they were hit by a drunk driver. And I think she might have killed 2 people in her car, as well as the 3 people in this gentleman's car. So very, very sad. All the more reason, man, if you're drinking, take an Uber, take a Lyft, have a designated driver. Don't do, I mean, and again, this wasn't this kid's fault.
Right.
This kid was just driving home and they were hit by a drunk driver. So very sad.